Hello everyone. So today we are here with the topic post-synaptic potentials. So in this video we'll be talking synapse, what is synapse, what happens at synapse level, and what are different post-synaptic potential, whether it's excitatory or inhibitory. Okay, if you haven't subscribed to my channel till now, please subscribe it, because via your subscription I got motivated to make more videos. Okay, so please subscribe it. So let us get started. So in this video, we'll be talking about the introduction, types of synaptic transmissions, what are different processes at that level, postsynaptic potentials, and what is then fate of that neurotransmitter. Okay, so let's get started now. Fine. So synapse is basically the way of communication when one nerve, basically via some neurotransmitter, that message is being traveled to other neuron. Okay, so synapse is basically the connection between two nerves. As you can see in the image, so one nerve is basically synapsing on other nerve. So the nerve synapsing, this is synaptic cleft. Okay, so this is called presynaptic neuron. Okay, then it's synapsing on something else. It can be a cell body, it can be a dendrite, it can be axon. So this portion is called postsynaptic terminal. Okay, so presynaptic and postsynaptic neuron. So basically the communication between these two neurons is called synapse. Fine. So we'll be seeing what are different dynamics of synapse. Now if we talk about synapse, so how synapse at synapse level one nerve is basically communicating with other, so that is synaptic transmission. So synaptic transmission is of two types. One is electrical, which is nothing but one intracellular fluid is basically it can travel to other intracellular fluid of other cell. Fine. So there is direct way of communication, so by means of gap junctions. So as you can see here, the gap junctions, so the ions, the cellular fluid that can actually travel to other cell, so that is electrical, by means of electrical or potential difference. It's basically sending message from one cell to other, so that is electrical synapse, right? If you talk about chemical synapse, means something chemical, neurotransmitter is being released from one cell, and that neurotransmitter is going to act on some receptors, and which is basically causing some potential differences, right? Okay, so what are these two type of transmission? The basic difference, if you say, if you can be asked like what is difference between electrical and chemical synaptic transmission, so this way you can categorize both. So how? In electrical synapse, we know the difference, as they are basically having gap junction, they are very close to each other, so the synaptic cleft is very less, so only 4 nanometer space is present between two cells. On the other hand, the chemical synapse, where synaptic cleft is present of 20 to 40 nanometer. Fine. If we talk about whether cytoplasm is continue, so obviously in electrical the cytoplasm is continue via gap junction, right? And there is no continuity in chemical one. When we talk about which are channels present, so here the gap junctions are present through which the intracytoplasmic connections are made to other cells. On the other hand, obviously there are no connections. If we talk about junction between two, that there are presynaptic vesicles which are released at cleft level, which is called active zone. Fine. And that neurotransmitter is going to act on some receptor at postsynaptic level, right? On the other hand, transmission, so here via gap junctions ionic current is passed, but on the other hand here neurotransmitter is released. Fine. If you talk about synaptic delay, then there no delay present, because cytoplasm is direct in contact with other cell. On the other hand, the time required for exocytosis of neurotransmitter, and then the neurotransmitter acts on some receptors, so there is synaptic delay present in chemical one. Okay, if you talk about direction of transmission, so in gap junction the transmission will be obviously bidirectional. The cytoplasm can move both the way. On the other hand, here in chemical one, the direction of transmission will be from the synaptic cleft, the presynaptic membrane, toward the postsynaptic membrane. Okay, so these are differences of both the transmission, electrical and chemical transmission. If you see zoomed view of electrical transmission, so here this is one cell, so presynaptic one, and here other cell, the postsynaptic one. Okay, so the gap junctions are present between them. If you see gap junctions, there are connections are basically making the channel. Here pore is formed through which the cytoplasm can travel to other cell. So direct communication. Okay, so this gap junction is formed of connexon unit, which is having 6 connexin arranged so that there is a pore formation at center. So this is electrical transmission. On the other hand, if we talk about chemical transmission, so the vesicles, as you can see in synaptic cleft, there are vesicles which are already formed, and whenever there is arrival of action potential which lead to depolarization, so calcium enters into the cell. Because of that calcium entry, the basically vessels, they fuse to the membrane and basically release the neurotransmitter. Fine. And that neurotransmitter basically act on the postsynaptic receptors, as you can see, and basically causes whatever depolarization in other cells. After that, the potassium channel open up and repolarization of the presynaptic neurons occur. Okay. So the ultimate, the fate of the action potential from presynaptic one, it is traveled to postsynaptic one. So the message from one neuron is transmitted to other one in form of EPSP or IPSP. So we'll discuss this. What is this EPSP? Excitatory postsynaptic potential and inhibitory postsynaptic potential. So overview of the chemical transmission, which is the most important transmission in throughout our body. So this is the whole picture, how basically vesicles are formed and then vesicles fuse with the membrane, the presynaptic membrane, and then the neurotransmitter is released. Again the vesicles are formed and recycled to form some endosomes, and from endosomes again the vesicles are formed. Okay, so that's how this is called vesicle cycle. Now, which type of neurotransmitters can be involved in these transmission, these communication between neuron to other neuron? So these are either amino acids, amines, or peptides. Within amino acids, we have the most important GABA, glutamate, glycine. These are the so except glutamate, the GABA and glycine are the inhibitory neurotransmitter. We'll talk about it later. But now you should know that neurotransmitter are basically under these 3 categories. Either they are amino acids, in which the example is GABA, glutamate, and glycine. The glutamate is the most important neurotransmitter in our brain. Okay. And amines, there are acetylcholine, there are dopamine, epinephrine, and norepinephrine. Okay, within peptides, cholecystokinin, and the most important are neuropeptide Y, substance P, which is the pain neurotransmitter, and VIP, vasoactive intestinal peptide. So these are some most common neurotransmitter involved. Now we have talked about that how basically the messages travel to other neuron. Okay, so the postsynaptic membrane we are talking about. So there must be some receptors at that level, right? That's how neurotransmitter or electrical transmission. So how basically it lead to depolarization of other cells. So the receptor involved are 2 type of receptors. Either there are inotropic glutamate receptor or metabotropic. What that mean? So within inotropic, there are 2 type of receptors, AMPA receptors and NMDA receptors. What are AMPA receptors is? So basically these 2 receptors are nothing but some ions act, some ions come and they bind to these channels, and which lead to opening of the channels. So ultimately the result is basically cationic entry into the cell. Obviously if cation enter, then there is resultant depolarization occur. So inside membrane goes toward positive state. Fine, that is called depolarization, right? So AMPA is the difference between AMPA and NMDA is nothing but AMPA is basically open up with low voltage. Okay, as you can see here on the graph. So at minus 80 millivolt, the AMPA channel open up, but as you can see the orange one, the NMDA is not open. Okay. Then NMDA open up when it goes toward further positive. So minus 80, from minus 80, if it go to minus 40, so toward positive 1. So as the membrane go toward positive 1, the NMDA channel open up. Now what is cause of this opening of NMDA channel is because as the membrane goes toward positive, there is a magnesium block within NMDA channel. So that magnesium, as you can see this yellow color structure, this is blocking the channel. So as the membrane go toward positive state, this channel, this magnesium is removed from here and this channel open up. So more cation entry occur. which is leading to more positive membrane potential. Okay, so that's how depolarization of other cell occur. The inotropic glutamic receptor. Fine. On the other hand, metabotropic glutamic receptor are when some ligand is going to bind some receptor. Here, the most common receptor is GPCR. So, G protein coupled receptor. Okay. Now, what happens here? It doesn't occur opening of some channels. On the other hand, if the ligand bind to receptor, it lead to some conformational change within some protein present in transmembrane. Okay, so because of that conformation change, it lead to either opening of channel, closing of channel, or some protein synthesis, right? So this way the metabotropic glutamic receptor occur. So ultimately the message travel to other neuron or other cells, and ultimately whatever was required, either it's protein synthesis or opening of other channel are required. Okay, so this way it happens. So there are two type of receptor on postsynaptic membrane. Now what they cause basically? So neurotransmitter is released at postsynaptic potential, the channels open up or the protein synthesis occur, which lead to depolarization of other channels. Now what is basically resultant of that? So that is postsynaptic potential. Okay, because of the channel opening, so the result is postsynaptic potentials. These are of two types: excitatory postsynaptic potential or inhibitory postsynaptic potential. Now let's see what are these. So excitatory postsynaptic potentials are basically the postsynaptic potential which are basically depolarization by, so from presynaptic level something is released, some neurotransmitter are released which are basically causing depolarization at postsynaptic level. That is called excitatory postsynaptic potential. So ultimately the cationic entry occur which lead to positive membrane potential, that is depolarization. Fine. It's not necessary that this EPSP is touching the threshold. It's not necessary at all. Okay. So ultimately many EPSP can touch the threshold which lead to action potential, right? So EPSP has nothing but the cationic entry. So neurotransmitter released which lead to cationic entry. Okay. It's not necessary at all that this is able to action potential generation. Okay. Fine. So neurotransmitter involved which is basically causing depolarization are acetylcholine and glutamate. Fine. And obviously the channel involved are acetylcholine and glutamate gated channel. Fine. So the resultant action is the cationic entry. It can be sodium, it can be calcium. Fine. So excitatory postsynaptic potential. The receptors involved are the AMPA one. So if only AMPA receptors are involved, then cationic entry occur. But there is magnesium block in NMDA, right? On the other hand, if membrane goes toward further positive state, this NMDA also open up and cationic entry occur, as I discussed earlier. Okay. So the same is shown here. On the other hand, inhibitory postsynaptic potentials which are causing hyperpolarization of postsynaptic membrane. Okay, so something is released which is causing either anionic entry into the cell which is causing negative membrane potential, or it's blocking the cationic entry. Okay, so here the neurotransmitter involved are glycine and GABA gated channels which is causing inhibitory action potential. How? It open up chloride channel. So if a chloride channel open up, what that mean? The anion is basically going inside. What that mean? The membrane potential is going to a negative state, right? So the negative state membrane potential is called repolarization or hyperpolarization. Fine. So this is basically causing inhibitory potential, hyperpolarization, and that's why this is called inhibitory postsynaptic potential. Although it can be presynaptic also. How? So inhibitory potentials can be, so presynaptic inhibition can be here or postsynaptic. How? It's nothing but if this purple neuron is presynaptic neuron and this orange neuron is a postsynaptic neuron. Okay. So it depends, then this interneuron is causing inhibition on presynaptic. So this is called presynaptic inhibition. If a neuron is or interneuron is causing postsynaptic directly, so it's called postsynaptic inhibition. If these two neurons are inhibitory. And how these two neurons can be inhibitory? That means the neurotransmitter released here and here are either GABA or glycine. So inhibitory neurotransmitters. And what they are causing? They are causing chloride channel opening, which is leading to hyperpolarization of the other membrane, postsynaptic one. Are you getting me? So this is pre and post-synaptic inhibitions. So this way the resultant action potential. Why we are synaptic and post, pre-synaptic and post-synaptic. So this graph is just showing why we are reading this. For example, if both are excitatory, so one is excitatory, and if we give other increase in action means increase in action potential. So if other is just the threshold, it can reaches the threshold and action potential can be generated. If only inhibitory potential is present, then it will be hyperpolarization. If inhibitory along with, so one inhibitory, one inhibitory, both potential are given, then summated potential will be, for example, this is excitatory and this red one is inhibitory. So the orange one is resultant action potential. Okay. So this both cancel out each other and the resultant action potential is this one. On the other hand, if excitatory potential is given, so this is the dashed line, yellow one, and inhibitory is also given. So this is inhibitory, very small inhibitory. So the resultant action potential is this one. Okay. So the final output, how much messages travel to other neuron, depends on all the synapses present on the neuron. Okay. Whether it's pre-synaptic or post-synaptic. So all these factors influence what is going to happen in other neuron. Okay. Fine. Now, what is fate of neurotransmitter? If neurotransmitter is released, it acts and obviously it depolarizes other membrane, message is traveled. Now what happens with this neurotransmitter? Either it can be taken to other cell or it can be taken to glial cells. Glial cells are present along the neurons. Fine. Or it can be taken some autoreceptors are present on the same cells. Fine. For example, acetylcholine if released, acetylcholine can be taken, or glutamate can be taken by glial cell, and there is acetylcholine esterase present which hydrolyze that enzyme, that neurotransmitter, and again it recycle to form other vesicles. Okay. So that's all about fate of neurotransmitter. Fine. So we have talked about what is synapse, what occurs at synapse level, what are pre-synaptic and post-synaptic potential. So that's all for today. Thank you so much.